Eye on the Islands is a weekly talk show dedicated to the people and the issues of the U.S. Virgin Islands. Now, here's your host for Eye on the Islands, Sarah Lazama.
Hi, and welcome to this edition of Eye on the Islands. I'm Sarah Lazama. With me here today is Mr. Elton Lewis, Director of the Virgin Islands Territorial Emergency Management Agency. Hi, how are you?
Hi, Sarah. Very well.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Now, we want to talk about some of the latest achievements of VITEMA, some of the agency's challenges, and also what your vision for VITEMA is going forward.
Well, let me start with your first question, Sarah. Just about last week, we just completed the installation of our tsunami sirens here in the territory. And I know that you'll hear the word tsunami continuously, but we want to try to change that to all hazard. The whole purpose of the sirens is not primarily for tsunamis, but it's primarily for hurricanes, floods, or any disaster that might hit the territory.
Earthquake.
Or earthquake. So we like to use the term all hazard. We have just recently completed the installation on St. Thomas, 4 on the island of St. Croix, as well as 2 on the island of St. John. We are going to, in another couple of weeks, test the entire system. But before we do that, there is a number of other components that has to be completed. One of those components is the protocol. How are we going to notify the mass of people here in the territory? How the sirens will sound, the tone, the audible information that's going to be coming from the speakers. And we also have to install the signage. We have placed an order for both the pedestrian and the motoring public to give them sort of a directional arrow, if I may, in terms of if something happens, that signage will indicate to the population that we need to, evacuate in this direction, either north, south, or whatever the case might be. And the other component of it is to educate the general public about the entire system. Once the notification is sound, what they should be do, and also conduct a series of PSA, public service announcement, and eventually get into the schools and talk to the young kids. I find that when you talk to the young folks, or young kids rather, it tends to transcend to the parents. So if we can get the information to the kids, certainly they can transmit that information to the parents. And they're within the household, so they have a lot of time. They're not rushed in terms of being provided or having knowledge of the information.
Okay. So where are the all-hazard sirens located?
Well, Sarah, on the island of St. Thomas, as I indicated to you earlier, there are 4. One is located at the Cyril E. King Airport. The second one is in the vicinity of the Griffith Ballpark. And then we have 2 additional one, which would be at the Yacht Haven Marina Club at Sugar Mill, and the 4th will be at the Red Hook Marina. On the island of St. Croix, one is at the D.C. Canagator Ballpark in and around that area. The next one is located at the government parking lot, which will take care of the downtown area. And the third is, the additional 2 is in the town of Frederiksted, one in the area of the Emancipation Drive, and the other one in the vicinity of the Paul E. Joseph Ballpark or Stadium in the vicinity of the Legislative Building. And on the island of St. John, it's at the Guy Benjamin School and at the Winston Wells Ballpark. Okay. So those are where all the sirens are currently located in the territory. Now, that is our first phase. This first phase, in terms of the purchase of the sirens, cost this government over $350,000.
Okay.
We were able to been awarded a grant from the Homeland Security, and also the 28th legislature also provided some $40,000 to help with the purchase of those sirens. Phase 2 of the project will be to install additional sirens in the territory with the ultimate means of blanketing the entire territory.
Okay.
That obviously, again, would cost us an additional $350,000 as well. And we have already completed a grant, submitted it to the Homeland Security, and the money is well on its way for phase 2 of that project. In addition to that, we had to find monies as well to purchase the signage. That has already been a part of that entire process, and the signage should be in the territory within a few days or so.
How do these sirens actually work?
The focal point for the siren, if an eventuality were to happen and we need to use the siren, the focal point for the activation will be at our 911 call center. Why? Well, for one reason, they are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The dispatchers are there. So it's a series of learning procedures that we will embark upon in terms of having the operators, touch and feel equipment, know how it operates, and so forth. So that will be one part of the educational process. The other means of activation would be by myself. I would have that ability to do that no matter where I'm at within the territory. So those are the two means of how we are going to notify the individuals or the population. Last night I've just completed reading the final draft of the protocol, which basically outlines our operational priorities. It outlines how the whole entire process is going to work. And what I intend to do is to make sure that each agency head and directors and instrumentality receive a copy of this protocol guidelines that they will have the ability to read and to have that as a ready source guide to follow for the tsunami protocol mass notification. So that's how that would operate. The sirens have a series of tones, which can reach anywhere between 1.5 miles. It also have the ability to address public service address, which can reach in the area of 900 feet. You will actually have to hear the different tones, and that will be a part of our testing process. Once we put the entire package together, meaning the installation of the sirens, which has already been completed, the completion of the protocol guidelines, the installation of the signage, and naturally the educational process with a number of series of PSAs and so forth. All of that will encompasses people actually hearing the different tones of the sirens, and as a part of that process as well, we intend to do a survey where people can actually, once we announce that we're running these tests, that they can make recommendations, suggestions, and comments, just like a lady did several weeks ago. She approached me. We was installing siren at the area of the downtown in the Griffith Ballpark. And she indicated to me, she said, that sounds identical to the cruise ship that when they're leaving at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, when you hear that foghorn. And so obviously we had to go back and adjust its sound.
Right.
We don't want anything to interfere, that we wanted to make sure that it's clear that when the population hear this particular sound, these are the actions that they would need to take. So once we start the educational process, I certainly going to ask for input, any recommendations, suggestions, because we want to get it right. We want to do it the right thing. The whole purpose of installing these sirens is to save life and property.
So we need the public to be aware that these sirens make a distinct sound, that when they hear it, there is a distinct action that they need to take. How are you going to go about educating the public in that manner?
Well, Sarah, education is the key. I mean, we must spend an awful lot of time ensuring that the public understand how the entire process works. That once that siren has been activated, what to do, where to go, and most of all, to ensure that they follow the direction of the emergency officials. So my intent is to spend an awful lot of time educating the general population, going to schools, going to the churches, going to town meetings, holding different sessions within the different parts of the island, so that folks have the opportunity to ask a lot of questions and to actually really understand. We want to make it as simple as possible. This whole issue of siren notification don't need to be a very difficult process. We're talking about trying to save lives here. So the key will be is to educate, and continue redundancy, putting out that information, both in the print media, both in the television, going to school, talking to the young kids, and holding a series of town meetings over and over and over until we think that the public really understand, and that when that siren, God forbid, is activated, that they can react to it without any great hesitation. So that is the key, and that's what VITEMA will endeavor to do and will do.
Okay, all right. When we come back, we'll have more with Director Lewis. Eye on the Islands puts the focus on local issues and events that affect you. I'm Sarah Lazama, inviting you to join me for some interesting conversation and timely information Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. and weekends at 12 noon and 6 p.m. on the Access Channel, local cable Channel 6 on St. Croix and Channel 10 on St. Thomas. We're back with this edition of Eye on the Islands. Joining me is Director of VITEMA, Mr. Elton Lewis. We talked about the new siren system that has been installed, but for some time now we have had something called VI Alert, and a lot of people are signed up. It goes to your cell phone. Tell me a little bit about what VI Alert is and what we hope to accomplish with it.
Sarah, VI Alert is a mass notification device or program. It has several components of notifying those individuals that have registered for VI Alert. One, you can receive a notification through your mobile telephone. Two, your internet. Or three, in your landline. The registration process is relatively simple. All you simply have to do is go to VITEMA website, and up in the right-hand corner, it tells you, it says VI Alert, register, and it gives you a series of prompts that you have to follow in order to register for VI Alert. The choice in terms of how you would like to be notified of any event, and again, the VI Alert is not simply for tsunamis. It's an all-hazard mass notification process or procedures. So if they, as an example, if WAPA goes out within the territory and it's a huge outage, we can provide that information to the general public. Flooding, terrorist event, of course, hurricane, earthquake, or whatever the case may be, we'll be able to have that ability to notify those individuals. Currently, the last count, which was several weeks ago, we had at least approximately 8,000 residents that have already signed up for this service here in the territory. And of course, we continue to encourage individuals to sign up because we think that it's a very important tool for notification for yourself as well as your family.
In your mind, is that a good number of people so far that have signed up?
Well, in comparison to the census and the number of folks that we have within the territory, I think that we need to increase our numbers in terms of notification. So, and we will continue to campaign along that route to ensure that people are aware that the system is available. And one key component, it's free. You don't have to pay for it, right? And you'll be able to get all sort of information coming out from via alert. So, as I indicated, we will continue to encourage people and a vigorous campaign to have people to be a part of that process. I think it's important for themselves as well as the family to be aware of what's going on within the territory with regards to earthquake, any possibility of tsunamis, and flooding issues, or any issues at road closure, any huge road closure within the territory. We will be able to provide that information to those individuals.
Well, we are in the midst of hurricane season now. It's early on in the season, but nonetheless, it is hurricane season. What is VITEMA doing to make sure that people know what they need to do to prepare for the event of a hurricane?
Well, what I'll say is that based on the prediction that we've been getting since several months ago, that this is going to be a very active season. There are 22 named storms, and it's predicted that 6 or 10 of those 22 will eventually become into a Category 3, perhaps hitting this area. So again, just based on that information, it is important for the residents of this territory to be prepared. Last week, we held a all-hazard expo, both in St. Thomas and St. Croix, basically where we had 30 different agencies, both local and federal, at our Sunny Isle Shopping Center, at the amphitheater, and at the Tudu Park here at St. Thomas, basically in a display, trying to provide information to the general public. WAPA was there. Any agency that you could possibly think of that deals with emergency management, both local and federal, was represented there. I want to thank two key sponsors, obviously, is the Innovative, and Banco Popular was prime sponsors for us in putting out this information. There was a great deal of residents that came by, got information. Flood insurance was also, information was also provided by the Office of the Lieutenant Governor. And I want to stress once again that we got to be prepared. Make a plan. Think about all of the necessary things that you will need to survive or to be at least self-sufficient between 3 to 5 days. Water, non-perishable foods, prescribed medication. If you own a pet, make arrangements for that pet as well. And be informed. We go back to the VITEMA website, www.vitema.gov, and click on the Ready button. And it gives you a series of family preparedness tips that you should be familiar with in terms of preparation. Red Cross was a major player at our expo. They have kits that the community can purchase that has just about all of the necessities that we will need, flashlights, extra batteries, and those sort of things. So call on your local chapter of the American Red Cross and get information in terms of being prepared. So there's a whole host of information out there. And all you got to do is simply call my team as well, and we'll point you in the right direction. But this certainly is going to be an active year, and we must be prepared.
Okay. You're not only new to VITEMA, but the agency on a cabinet level is kind of a new shift. Tell me what your vision for VITEMA is.
Well, Sarah, I have a lot of things that I would like to get accomplished in VITEMA, but the two things that readily come to mind is, one, I would like to see that we completely build out a brand new emergency operations center on the island of St. Croix that will complement the one here on St. Thomas. so we can have a well-rounded emergency management process for the entire territory. So that's one of my top priorities in terms of which I express publicly, and I also express to the governor as well that I like to see done. So I'm going to move post haste on that process. The second would be to establish a curriculum of studies here at the local university, University of the Virgin Islands, in the area of emergency management for our young kids here in the territory. Emergency management, as I see it, is a very, very important area, and that for some reason or the other has been neglected, particularly in the territory, for a number of years. So one of the things that I would like to do is to go out to the local schools, local universities, and petition, obviously, Dr. Hall and those individuals to encourage to establish a curriculum at the university for emergency management. We need people with energy. We need new ideas. We need new innovation. As things change, we got to embrace the young folks here in the territory. They have a lot to offer. They have a lot of ideas. And I think that we should take advantage of some of those ideas and some of those innovations, particularly in the area of emergency management. And I would like to see that done, and I will continue to champion that.
At this point in time, if the territory were to be hit by a disaster, earthquake, tsunami, hurricane, whatever it may be, do you feel that we are prepared to handle it?
You're never prepared for a catastrophic event. I mean, it could be here, it can be Alaska, it could be in any one of the 50 states. We just need to continue doing our planning assumptions, continue to prepare. We have been running a series of exercises with the worst scenario, and we'll continue to do that. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, they're engaged. The Defense Coordinating Officer, which is the military aspect of helping us here in emergency management, they are engaged. And I have also been engaged with the Department of Human Services on the federal side because they bring a lot to offer in terms of mass care and triage. So I would say, yes, we are. We've been planning for months. We will continue to plan. In fact, I will be meeting with the Defense Coordinating Officer tomorrow, again, to go over a number of other planning assumptions. We have been talking about pre-positioning a lot of our commodities. We know that we only have 2 airports here in the territory, and if there's anything that goes wrong with those airports, we still have to find the ability to bring in resources as far as supplies and logistics and personnel. So we have a plan for that. So the thing is to continue doing our assumptions or planning assumptions, and we continue to do it, and we plan on the worst case scenario. So times have changed, and we got to change with the time, and that's why I would like to also engage some of these young folks because they come up with some of the things that we don't think of, and it's just at different times, and we got to engage those individuals along and to help us with these planning assumptions. But I can assure the general public, and I can assure the governor that we are doing everything we possibly can in terms of preparedness. If this island is hit, God forbid, with any eventuality, I think that we're poised and ready to respond and to recover and to mitigate any circumstances that might occur here in the territory.
You mentioned FEMA. Do we have any partnerships with maybe the British Virgin Islands or with Puerto Rico to assist us in the event of a disaster?
We have what we call a mutual aid agreement, so we can perhaps pull resources from any state and territory to assist us. In fact, we just met with the counterpart over in the British Virgin Islands in terms of what they're doing for preparation and exchange ideas and suggestions to better facilitate and prepare for any eventuality. So yes, and we also been reaching out to Puerto Rico. I have traveled to Puerto Rico. I personally know the emergency manager over there, and again, they are all part of the planning process because we are far removed from the United States, and at some point we got to ensure that we are self-sufficient at least for 5 days. I mean, if we are cut off from the United States and they can't get necessary commodities and resources here, and that's why I'm a proponent for sheltering in place and being totally self-sufficient and not rely and depend on anyone to help us, especially within the first 72 hours. So I'm going to do everything I possibly can and will do to ensure that we are prepared, that I'm also prepared to provide to the governor the best possible course of action if anything were to happen here, that he will also have the ability to speak to the people of this territory and to ensure them that we are doing what we are chartered or mandated to do, and which is to be prepared and to respond to the people here in the territory. Our primary objective is to save lives.
Okay. Well, Director Lewis, I want to thank you for joining us today on this edition of Eye on the Islands. Do you have any parting words for our viewers?
Well, first of all, it's been my pleasure, and I want to ensure that the general population of the Virgin Islands know that this is going to be a very, very active season. I'm asking all residents of this territory is to get a kit, make a plan, and be informed.
Okay, to ensure their safety.
To ensure their safety and the safety of their family.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
That's it for this edition of Eye on the Islands.